Welcome back to DJ Carl Play Legacy. Today we have Josh on Reanimator and David on Temur Delver. For Josh's opening hand, we have a Grief, Reanimate, 2 Lotus Petal, an Unmasked, Dark Ritual, and a Bloodstained Mire. Today David will be on the play. Opening hand, we have 2 Brainstorm, a Lightning Bolt, Ponder, Daze, Volcanic Island, and a Polluted Delta. Turn 1 for David. We're going to start off with a Volcanic Island and a Ponder. Looks like we're going to take a Shuffle. And take a fresh draw. From there, you'll pass a turn. Turn 1 for Josh. We'll start with the Bloodstained Mire. Casting both Lotus Petals. It looks like we're going to cast an Unmask, exiling the Dark Ritual. No response from David. Josh is going to take the Daze. He'll follow it up by evoking the Grief, exiling another Dark Ritual, which he'll take the Lightning Bolt. Josh is going to go ahead and crack the Bloodstained Mire and cast the Reanimate, targeting the Grief. Grief will ETB. Josh is going to take one of the Brainstorms. And he'll pass the turn from there. Josh at 15, David at 20. Turn 2 from David. Start off by casting a Brainstorm. David will play the Polluted Delta and then pass the turn. Josh will untap and draw. Move to combat. No response from David, he'll go down to 17. Josh will pass the turn from there. At David's upkeep, he's going to crack the Polluted Delta. Get another Volcanic Island. He'll then draw per turn. Play another Volcanic Island. And cast a Murktide Regent. Full value on that. It is now an 8/8. David will pass the turn. Josh will untap and draw. Start off by going to combat. He'll attack with the Grief. David will go down to 13. Josh will pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw. Play a Polluted Delta. Go to combat, swing for 8 with the Murktide. Josh will take it and go down to 7. David will go ahead and pass the turn. Josh will untap and draw. He'll start his turn off by casting a Cabal Therapy. In response to that, David's going to cast a Brainstorm. That'll resolve. Josh will name Daze. David reveals his hand with no Daze. Josh will go to combat, attack with the Grief. Second main phase, Josh is going to flashback the Cabal Therapy, sacrificing the Grief. That'll resolve. Josh will name Force of Will. From there, Josh is going to go ahead and cast a Faithless Looting. That'll resolve. Josh will draw 2 and then discard 2. And concede from there. Moving on to sideboards, Josh is going to be taking out a Cabal Therapy, Shallow Grave, Animate Dead, and an Unmask, and bringing in Sauron, the Dark Lord, Magus of the Moon, and 2 Dothy Voidwalker. David will be taking out 4 Delver of Secrets and a Daze, bringing in a Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Force of Negation, and 2 Surgical Extraction. Josh's opening hand, we have an Entomb, Thoughtseize, Faithless Looting, Lotus Petal, Exhume, Swamp, and a Marsh Flats. Taking a look at David's hand, on a mulligan down to 6, David has a Murktide Regent, Mishra's Bauble, Daze, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Wasteland, and a Scalding Tarn, which he'll be scrying the Mishra's Bauble to the bottom. Starting off for Josh on turn 1, going to start with a Swamp, Lotus Petal, and cast a Thoughtseize. David will reveal his hand. Josh is going to go ahead and take the Force of Will. And he'll pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw. Play a Scalding Tarn and pass the turn. Joshua will untap and draw. Play a Marsh Flats. Josh will then go to 17, cracking the Marsh Flats. Getting a Badlands. And from there, he'll cast a Faithless Looting. Looks like David's going to go ahead and cast a Force of Negation. Looks like he's going to be casting it by pitching the Daze. That will resolve, countering the Faithless Looting, which will exile. From there, Josh will pass a turn. David will untap and draw. Play a Wasteland and activate it, targeting the Badlands. From there, he'll pass a turn. At David's end step, Josh is going to cast Entomb. Looks like David has a follow-up Force of Will, exiling the Murktide and taking 1. That'll resolve, countering the Entomb. Josh will untap and draw. Josh will play another Marsh Flats. Crack it down to 16. Looks like he's getting a Badlands. He'll sack the Lotus Petal and cast a Magus of the Moon. David's going to respond by cracking the Scalding Tarn, going down to 18. Getting a Volcanic Island. So the Magus will resolve, and at end step, David's going to go ahead and bolt the Magus. David will untap and draw, and pass the turn. Josh will untap and draw. We'll play another Marsh Flats. He'll fetch down to 15. Getting another swamp. We'll go ahead and cast Exhume. He'll get the Magus of the Moon back, and he'll pass the turn. David will untap and draw, and pass the turn. Josh will untap and draw, go to combat, and attack for 2. From there, Josh will pass the turn. Josh's end step, David's going to cast Seek the Beast. That'll resolve. David will exile the top 2 cards of his library. David will untap and draw. He'll play a Polluted Delta. He'll then cast the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Looks like he'll pass the turn from there. The Brazen Bar will go to exile. Josh will untap and draw. Josh will go to combat, attack for 2. Josh will pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw. David will start off by casting a Bauble, which will trigger Surveil off the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Looks like he hit a Brainstorm, so he'll put it in the grave. David will go to combat, attack for 1, and he'll pass the turn. Josh will untap, and at his upkeep, David will Bauble Josh. Josh will then draw that card. Josh will go to combat, attacking for 2 with the Magus. And pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw at his upkeep off the Bauble, and then draw per turn. He'll then cast another Bauble, which will trigger the Surveil. He'll bin a Vapor Snag. He'll go to combat and attack for 1. And he'll pass the turn. David will then crack the Bauble at Josh's upkeep. Josh will go to combat for 2. And pass the turn. David will untap and draw off the Bauble, and then draw per turn. David will play an island, go to combat, and attack for 1. And he'll pass the turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. Move to combat again, putting David down to 8. Second main phase. In second main phase, Josh is going to start off by casting a Dark Ritual. That'll resolve. And with 4 mana, he'll cast a Grief. In response, David's going to cast Unholy Heat, targeting the Magus, which will trigger the Dragon's Rage Channeler. And keep the card on top off the Surveil. Grief resolves. ETB. David has just a Volcanic Island in hand. So then from there, Josh is going to go ahead and reanimate the Magus of the Moon. Josh will go down to 9. He'll pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw. David's going to cast the Brainstorm, which will trigger the Dragon's Rage Channeler. Looks like he's going to bin a Murktide Regent, so it now has Delirium. Brainstorm Resolve. Move to combat. David is forced to attack with the Dragon's Rage Channeler, putting Josh down to 6. Second main phase, David's going to cast another Dragon's Rage Channeler. Looks like he's going to go ahead and pass the turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. Looks like he doesn't have lethal, so it looks like he'll go ahead and concede the game from there. Once again, be sure to like the video and subscribe, and thanks for watching.